I have a CEO girlfriend who never keeps her promises. 7 years into our relationship, she's always late or absent for every date. The first time, her newly hired male assistant lost a contract. I waited at the restaurant until closing time, reheating the dishes 3 times, but there was no word from her. The second time, the male assistant called saying he'd gotten lost. Even though she'd already arrived downstairs, I didn't see her until after the movie ended. After that, every time I tried to have a private date with her, some sudden crisis involving her male assistant would arise, and she'd vanish without a trace, only to later smile and promise she'd make it up next time. On the day I planned to propose, she disappeared without warning again. But this time, I didn't wait. I boarded a flight overseas directly. Yet she frantically sent me countless messages, begging through tears for forgiveness. Bro, hasn't your girl arrived yet? The candles are almost burnt out. The friend in charge of setting the mood cautiously approached and asked. I looked up at the meticulously arranged proposal scene. The romantic rose petals and flickering candlelight now seemed to mock my wishful thinking. I picked up my phone and dialed my girlfriend Gu Shirqing's number for the 7th time. The number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable. Please try again later. Hearing the familiar mechanical busy tone, I hung up and forced a bitter smile uglier than tears. Again, no replies to messages. No answer calls. Unexplained disappearances. This had become routine during our dates. Clearly, Gu Shirqing must have gone to help her male assistant Si Chenyu resolve some emergency again. I waved weakly. Everyone can leave. No need to wait. Just as I urged my friends to depart, my phone suddenly rang. It was Gu Shirqing's call. My heart leapt. After all these sudden disappearances, this was the first time she'd actively contacted me. Though late, even if this proposal wasn't perfect, her presence would be enough. Shirqing, where are you? The next moment, however, Si Chenyu's impatient voice came through the phone. Jiangyi, can you stop making harassment calls? Sis is watching a movie with me. You keep making noise. How pathetic is that? My mind went blank with a buzzing numbness. Watching a movie? In 7 years with Gu Shirqing, we'd never watched a single movie together. She was always busy, corporate affairs, endless social engagements. Even when I invited her during rare breaks, she'd say movies wasted time. Better spend that time studying market trends to share my burdens. Turns out, she did have time. Just didn't want to waste it on me. Gritting my teeth, I suppressed the anger in my heart. Put Shirqing on the phone. Si Chenyu scoffed contemptuously from the other end. Oh, AC. Ting tough now. Sis is busy. I was thirsty. She went downstairs to get my milk tea. You, he said, should save your energy and give up sooner. Jiejia has a date with me today. She won't be coming to see you. Oh right, forgot to tell you. Jiejia gave me a brand new watch. It's really nice. Before Si Chenyu could finish, I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Ever since our school days, Si Chenyu had frequently asked Gu Shirqing out for study sessions under the guise of being her junior. After starting work, I thought everything would finally return to normal. Yet he brazenly had Gu Shirqing recruit him into the company, becoming her male assistant. Over the years, he has disrupted every one of my dates with Gu Shirqing under various pretexts. I had sensed something was off long ago. I just didn't want to believe that our 7-year relationship could be so fragile. But now, my patience has finally run out. It's time to leave. With that thought, I didn't go home, but headed straight to the office. Since I'm leaving, I'll make a clean break. I walked to the HR department and handed over the prepared resignation letter. The HR manager looked at me in surprise. Team leader Jiang, are you sure about resigning? You've worked tirelessly on the Future City project for 3 years and are about to get promoted to manager. Leaving now would be such a waste. It was no surprise she was shocked. After all, I was a veteran employee and had just secured a major project. But more than any of that, I wanted to set myself free. I'm certain. Hearing this, the HR manager seemed struck by a sudden thought and swiftly signed my resignation letter. Well, you've been with CEO Gu for so many years, and I heard you proposed to her today. Your relationship is so strong. It looks like it worked out. There's no need to keep grinding here. Wishing you both a smooth wedding. I immediately realized she had misunderstood. She thought I was going to be the man behind the female CEO. But since I was leaving anyway, I couldn't be bothered to explain. As for my relationship with Gu Shirqing, it was indeed once strong. So strong that I believed we could keep walking this path forever. But that's all in the past now. At that time, Gu Shirqing wasn't a CEO yet, just a fresh college graduate. We crowded into a tiny rented room together, ate the cheapest instant noodles together, and fought for our dreams together. Back then, even though we were poor, but we supported each other and still weathered countless difficult days and nights together, until she used her capabilities to defeat those profit-driven relatives and regained control of the company left by her parents. I thought we would stay like this forever, but reality ultimately gave me a hard slap in the face. Thinking of this, I take a deep breath and open my phone to contact my friend in Japan's tourism industry. Asia, book me a ferry ticket to Japan. The sooner the better. Huh? E.g., why are you suddenly going to Neon? Are you accompanying your wife on a trip? I sounded thoroughly surprised on the other end. No, just me alone. Anyway, help me arrange it. I'll explain the details when I arrive in Neon. I didn't want to explain further, just wished to leave this place as soon as possible. The reason I chose Neon was because that's where Gu Shiqing's parents had their fatal car accident. That place remained an eternal pain in her heart. I believe she would never follow me there. She has her responsibilities, her career, and her Si Chunyu. As for me, I just want to find a quiet place to lick my wounds and start my life anew. After hanging up the phone, I began handling the necessary paperwork. By the time everything was settled, it was already late at night. I dragged my exhausted body home to rest, but upon opening the door, I stood frozen in place. The living room was lit. Gu Shiqing was sitting on the sofa, seemingly waiting for me. Why is she here? Shouldn't she be accompanying her Si Chunyu? The next moment, Gu Shiqing looked up, showing a hint of apology when she saw my face. Jiang Yi, you're back. You blocked my number. I've been waiting for you. There's something I need to say. I stared at her coldly without saying a word. Seeing this, Gu Shiqing sighed and walked up to me, reaching out to take my hand. I know you're angry about what happened today, but I really had no choice. Chinyu, he has claustrophobia and is terrified of the dark. In the cinema today, when the lights suddenly dimmed, he fainted from fear. I had to take him to the hospital. Gu Shiqing's voice was soft, gentle, but I instinctively shook off her hand. Afraid of the dark? Claustrophobia? I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. On the phone earlier, Si Chunyu's arrogant and overbearing tone hadn't sounded like someone with any phobias. Besides, Gu Shiqing always had some bizarre excuse ready. If she wasn't tired of it, I was tired of hearing it. More importantly, today was our 7th anniversary as a couple. She'd probably forgotten all about it, hadn't she? Seeing my indifference, Gu Shiqing took out an exquisite box from her bag and handed it to me. Jiang Yi, I know you're upset, but please believe me. This is for you. It's our 7th anniversary gift. I chose it carefully, see if you like it. Her tone carried a hint of anticipation, as if hoping to compensate for today's mishap with this gift. I was surprised. She actually remembered our anniversary? With mixed feelings, I took the box and opened it. A Patek Philippe watch lay quietly on the velvet cushion. The dial shimmered with understated luxury, undeniably valuable. But I picked up the watch and examined it closely. A faint gardenia fragrance from the strap wafted subtly to my nostrils. Gu Shiqing and I never wear perfume. Only Sikhin Yuan uses fragrances. Moreover, this watch model, although it had been carefully wiped, there were still some faint scratches on the inner side of the watch band. Clearly, this was a second-hand item previously worn by someone else. I suddenly understood. This watch must be an old model Si Chunyu had discarded. After all, at noon, he had specifically boasted to me about the new watch Gu Shiqing gave him. Perhaps she only remembered today was our 7th anniversary when she came home and saw the candlelit dinner I'd prepared, then hastily gave me this used watch Si Chunyu previously wore as a gift. What a precious gift. I looked up at the expectant glow in Gu Shiqing's eyes, feeling profound desolation in my heart. Just as I was about to refuse, Gu Shiqing spoke first. Jiang Yi, I know that project you've been working on is very important to you. But Chunyu has been at the company for a while now, without notable achievements. There's been some criticism, even talks of dismissing him. Could you give that project to Chunyu? She spoke cautiously, as if afraid to anger me. I let out a bitter laugh. So even this valuable second-hand gift was just a bargaining chip in a transaction. She never intended to make amends, only to use me to pave the way for Si Chunyu. Okay, I replied flatly. After all, I've already resigned. That project meant nothing to me now. Agreeing to her request would be my final tribute to this relationship. Without taking the watch, I turned and walked to the bedroom to start packing my luggage. Gu Shiqing watched my movements with confusion. Are you going on a business trip? Is it urgent? MHM. I nodded without elaboration. That makes sense. Such an expensive watch isn't suitable for business trips anyway. Let me help you pack. For some reason, Gu Shiqing sighed in relief, her tone turning breezy. She came to my side and helped me organize my clothes. But the next moment, Gu Shiqing's hand suddenly paused as she exclaimed in surprise. Jiang Yi, where's the lucky charm I gave you? Why aren't you carrying it? Lucky charm? I froze momentarily before remembering. It was something Gu Shiqing had personally made for me when we first got together. Back then, she was still an innocent young girl, without so much cunning and calculation. She would drag me to temples at dawn on weekends to pray for my career success. Would grip my hand tightly in crowded places, afraid we might get separated. When I fell seriously ill after a business trip, she knelt before Buddha for an entire day to beg for a protective charm. Then carefully stitched the obtained red thread into an exquisite cloth pouch with needle and thread, fashioning it into a lucky charm that she personally hung on my bag. Jiang Yi, You must remember to carry this on every business trip. This way, I can protect you. Back then, her eyes sparkled like stars in the sky when she smiled. Perhaps, the girl from that time truly loved me? I once believed that this love would continue on forever. Every time I traveled for work, I would carefully carry it with me, as if carrying her blessings and her love. But now, this love has long since spoiled. These blessings naturally lost their meaning. Now this protective charm means nothing more to me than a superfluous accessory. Gu Shiqing still wanted to say something when suddenly, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and instantly turned pale. No need to guess who sent the message. Besides Si Chunyu, who else could make her lose composure like this? Jiang Yi. There's an urgent issue at the company. I need to handle it immediately. Gu Shiqing quickly looked up at me, her eyes filled with pleading. When I didn't respond, she explained further. Your business trip isn't until tomorrow evening, right? There's still time. I promise to make it up to you tomorrow daytime. Let's go on a proper date. I promise there will absolutely be no issues this time. I swear. I'll definitely return to accompany you by noon at the latest, okay? She reached out, trying to grab my hand. I dodged her. Her skin was really thick enough. At this point, did she really think I would still believe her promises? Enough. A pile of company matters is waiting for you. Hurry up, don't delay important business. I urged, my tone laced with sarcasm. Fine, it's settled. I'll definitely come to accompany you after finishing work tomorrow. Gu Shiqing bit her lip and ultimately turned to leave. As I watched Gu Shiqing's hurried departing figure, I felt nothing but irony. Returning to my room, I lay on the bed and closed my eyes. At this moment, I felt incomparably relaxed, sinking into deep sleep. For 7 years, this was the first time I slept so soundly. No anxiety, no unease, no suspicion. I slept straight through until noon the next day. When I woke up, I picked up my phone and glanced at it. No missed calls, no unread messages. Sure enough, Gu Shiqing had forgotten our agreement yet again and didn't contact me. I knew she would always be like this. Casually makes promises to others, just as casually breaks them. I placed the breakup letter and that safety charm on the most visible spot of the table, then grabbed my suitcase and left this home without looking back. Soon, I arrived at the harbor. The sea breeze brushed against my face, carrying a hint of salty dampness. I've always loved the ocean. Yet during these 7 years with Gu Shiqing, we never once went to see the sea. She was always busy, either with her company or for Si Chunyu. So this time, I deliberately bought a boat ticket. As I boarded the ferry and stood on the deck ready to enjoy the view, my phone rang. When I checked, it turned out to be Si Chunyu's WeChat Moments update. He had posted a photo. In the picture, Gu Shiqing was fast asleep by his hospital bed, their fingers interlocked. As if worried I might misunderstand, Si Chunyu thoughtfully had mentioned me in the comments section. Jiang Yi, my old issue with bloated stomach acted up again. Thanks to sister taking care of me all day long. I noticed she even set an alarm on her phone for what seemed like a date with you. But she was too exhausted and fell asleep. You'll understand, right? Of course, you mustn't get angry about our relationship. Sister and I really didn't do anything yesterday. Oh, perhaps feeling his relationship with Gu Shiqing had progressed. Sikin, you couldn't even bother pretending today, openly provoking me in his social media post. Seeing this, I merely smiled faintly and casually gave it a like. I was just about to lock my screen. Gu Shiqing's voice call notification suddenly popped up. My finger slipped and accidentally hit accept. Jiang Yi, let me explain. Gu Shiqing's urgent voice came through the receiver. What happened yesterday was truly a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to. I was just too busy, completely overwhelmed. That's why I forgot to tell you. Young Chunyu is still immature. Don't take his words seriously. I've already booked the hotel. When you return from your business trip, we'll get engaged directly. Before Gu Shiqing could finish speaking, the ferry behind me started its engine. A tremendous whistle instantly reverberated across the entire harbor. Woo! Hearing the noise, Gu Shiqing froze, asking in confusion. Jiang Yi, where are you now? Why do I hear ship sounds? Weren't you supposed to meet clients on a business trip? Hearing this, I replied indifferently. No, I'm going to Japan. As for us, in this lifetime, we should never meet again. With that, I directly hung up. The ferry slowly departed from the harbor, heading towards international waters. My phone's signal grew progressively weaker. Just the moment before the signal vanished completely, Gu Shiqing's calls started flooding in like madness. I knew she must have countless things to say, countless explanations to make, but I no longer wished to hear any of it. I stared at the characters Gu Shiqing flashing incessantly on my phone screen, feeling utterly unmoved. It was like watching a call from a complete stranger. I directly pressed the mute button and tossed the phone aside, letting it flash futilely on the side. I turned my head to look out the window. The deep blue sea rolled with waves under the night sky. From this moment onward, the person named Gu Shiqing would have no further connection to me. On the other side, Gu Shiqing was nearly driven mad with anxiety. She kept dialing my number over and over again, yet it always went unanswered. Jiang Yi, answer the phone. What's wrong with you? She nearly screamed into the phone. She couldn't understand. Why had I suddenly become so resolute? Was it just because she failed to keep last night's appointment? Because she stayed with Si Chenyu all night? But there were reasons for all this. Hadn't she already explained everything? Thinking of this, she sent me another message. Jiang Yi, stop joking. Why on earth would you go to Japan out of the blue? Seeing no response yet, Gu Shiqing took a deep breath and dialed my number again. The number you have dialed has activated international roaming service. The cold mechanical female voice mercilessly informed her. International roaming? Gu Shiqing froze instantly. Her mind went completely blank. Could it be? Was Jiang Yi not joking after all? Had he really gone to Japan? Gu Shiqing's body began to tremble. She suddenly realized this situation might have truly escalated beyond control. Shiqingjie, don't worry. Brother Jiang Yi probably just got angry temporarily. He'll return once he cools down. Si Chenyu, standing nearby, showed a faint trace of concealed triumph in his eyes as he spoke. While uttering these words, he hypocritically offered Gu Shiqing a tissue. But this time, Gu Shiqing didn't accept it. Instead, she forcefully pushed Si Chenyu away. What does an outsider like you know? I have to stop him. After speaking, Gu Shiqing turned and ran. She was going to find Jiang Yi and ask him face to face for clarity. Gu Shiqing drove straight to the port, rushed into the ferry terminal hall, grabbed a staff member, and asked, "Hello, is there a passenger named Jiang Yi who just took a ferry to Neon?" The staff member was startled, paused for a moment, then replied, "Please wait, I'll check for you." He rapidly typed on the keyboard. A few seconds later, he looked up. "Sorry, ma'am. There was indeed a passenger named Jiang Yi, but he has already boarded and departed." "When did he leave?" Gu Shiqing asked urgently. "Approximately half an hour ago," the staff member answered. "Half an hour?" Gu Shiqing's vision darkened, and she nearly fainted. Can the ferry return? Can you bring him back?" I tried calling him, but he won't answer." Gu Shiqing spoke incoherently, while the staff member wore an awkward expression. "Ma'am, please calm down. I understand how you feel. The ship has already sailed in. Oh, international waters, there's no way to turn back, and we can't contact the vessel." Hearing this, Gu Shiqing completely broke down. She collapsed onto the floor, her face filled with disbelief. "Jiang Yi, why would you do this to me? Why did you leave?" Suddenly, everyone around began casting strange looks her way. "Sister Shiqing, don't be like this." Si Chenyu caught up and crouched down, gently patting her back. "Brother Jiang Yi definitely didn't really mean to break up with you. Men understand men best. He probably just wanted to upset you deliberately. Who told you not to go on that date with him yesterday? If you ask me, Brother Jiang must just be traveling to clear his mind. He'll return in a few days." He kindly comforted her, yet his tone carried a hint of schadenfreude. "Really?" Gu Shiqing looked up at him with tear-blurred eyes. "Chenyu, are you telling the truth?" She grabbed Si Chenyu's arm, as if clutching a lifeline. "Of course it's true, Shiqingjie. Think about it. Jiang Yi loves you so much. How could he bear to break up with you?" Si Chenyu declared earnestly. "He cares about you too much, that's why he's so angry." After hearing Si Chenyu's words, a flicker of smugness actually surfaced on Gu Shiqing's face. Right. Jiang Yi loved her so deeply. How could he truly abandon her? He must just be throwing a tantrum. Once he tires of this game and cools down, he'll naturally return. Gu Shiqing wiped her tears and stood up. "Let's go. Back to the company. I'll have HR deduct his entire month's salary." "He wants to leave? Fine. I'll make sure he doesn't get a single cent," she announced triumphantly, as if this could vent her resentment. The moment Gu Shiqing returned to the office, she immediately summoned the HR manager. "Deduct Jiang Yi's entire salary for this month. Not a single penny is to be paid to him." The HR manager stared at Gu Shiqing, looking bewildered. "Director Gu, but team leader Jiang, didn't he resign long ago?" "Resign?" Gu Shiqing's voice sharpened as if it could pierce through the roof. She sprang up from her chair like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Has Jiang Yi grown a bear's heart and leopard's gall? How dare he resign? What does he take me, Gu Shiqing, for? Does he think he can come and go as he pleases?" Gu Shiqing's voice abruptly cut off. She suddenly realized she had lost her composure. The HR manager in front of her was staring in terror, as if looking at a madwoman. Gu Shiqing took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. When did he submit his resignation letter?" She tried to keep her voice steady, but the faint tremor in her final syllable betrayed her true emotions. The HR manager hunched his shoulders and whispered. In reply, just yesterday afternoon. Didn't you call that day and ordered to transfer the Future City project led by team leader Jiang to Assistant C. His voice grew increasingly faint, nearly inaudible. Future City? Gu Shiqing's head buzzed with a hum. She remembered. Yesterday, she had indeed received a call from HR. She had been busy dealing with Si Qinyu's matters at the time, and had no mental energy to spare for Jiang Yi, so she'd casually agreed. The Future City project was Jiang Yi's brainchild, meticulously planned and nurtured for over half a year. One of the company's most crucial projects this year. She had only wanted Jiang Yi to take a break then, while paving the way for newcomers. But now, Gu Shiqing suddenly realized she seemed to have done something incredibly foolish. Director Gu, are you alright? The HR manager cautiously inquired. Gu Shiqing didn't respond. She only felt waves of dizziness crashing over her. After a long while, she leaned on the table and slowly sat down. Beside her, Si Chunyu, who had somehow followed her in, put on a worried expression as he watched Gu Shiqing. It's all my fault, all my fault. If it weren't for me, Brother Jiang, he wouldn't have gotten angry with you. If I hadn't taken over the Future City project, Brother Jiang, he wouldn't have resigned. It's all my fault, all my fault. Si Qinyu's voice trembled with thick self-reproach. Sister Shiqing, maybe I should resign after all. No, I should just die. That way, Brother Jiang, he might forgive you. As he spoke, he began to sob, crying like a wronged child. His utterly pitiful appearance instantly softened Gu Shiqing's heart. Qinyu, don't say such things. Gu Shiqing grasped Si Qinyu's hand in return, urgently saying, how could any of this be your fault? If we must blame anyone, it should be Jiang Yi. He's such a petty man, making such a fuss over trivial matters. Resigning? Who does he think he is? Without me, Gu Shiqing, he's nothing. Gu Shiqing grew angrier as she spoke, her voice rising steadily. What's so great about this Future City project anyway? If he doesn't want it, I wasn't planning to give it to him anyway. Don't worry, Chunyu. You focus on this project. I believe you'll do way better than him. Gu Shiqing patted Si Qinyu's shoulder while comforting him. But, Brother Jiang Yi. Si Qinyu tried to speak, but Gu Shiqing harshly cut him off. Don't mention him to me. I never want to hear that name again. He wants to leave? Fine. Let him go. Let's see what he can achieve without me. When he comes crawling back covered in dust and begging, we'll see how arrogant he remains then. Gu Shiqi. Ying sneered coldly. A flicker of smugness flashed in her eyes. Suddenly, an idea occurred to her. By the way, he's gone, but his money remains intact. Gu Shiqing asked the HR manager. It's still there. The HR manager hastily replied. His salary, bonuses, and various dividends over the years add up to no small sum. Excellent. Gu Shiqing nodded in satisfaction. Go contact the bank and freeze his account. Not a single cent shall he withdraw. I'll make him understand that without Gu Shiqing, he can't even afford a meal. Gu Shiqing declared triumphantly, as if already witnessing Jiang Yi reduced to destitution, kneeling and begging before her. But the HR manager looked uneasy. Director Gu, I'm afraid it's not feasible. We have no authority to freeze employees' personal accounts. Then find a way. Gu Shiqing snapped impatiently. I don't care what methods you use. In short, I want him locked out of his funds. Yes, understood. The HR manager nodded repeatedly before retreating. Gu Shiqing turned to glance at Si Qinyu. You don't need to worry, Qinyu. Sister will definitely get justice for you. When Jiang Yi becomes penniless and desperate, he'll naturally come begging to me. Then, I'll make him kneel and apologize to you. Gu Shiqing declared resolutely. Si Qinyu lowered his head, a barely perceptible cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth. A few days later, Gu Shiqing received a call from the bank. Sorry, Miss Gu. We can't freeze Mr. Jiang Yi's account. Why? Gu Shiqing's voice suddenly sharpened. Because Mr. Jiang Yi's account was already frozen long ago. What? Gu Shiqing could hardly believe her ears. What did you say? Repeat that. Mr. Jiang Yi had already applied to freeze his account himself. The bank staff's voice was soft and helpless. Impossible. Are you making some mistake? Miss Gu, we verified repeatedly. Mr. Jiang truly hasn't touched a single cent in the card. Why hasn't he used it? Gu Shiqing's voice trembled. We don't know. Gu Shiqing hung up the phone. Her entire body collapsed into the chair like a soul drained from its vessel. The money in Jiang Yi's account. All of it came from her, yet he hadn't touched a single cent. How was this possible? Could it be he had planned to leave her long ago? One question after another swirled in Gu Shiqing's mind, making her head throb with pain. She returned home in a daze. The empty rooms felt desolate and cold, stripped of their familiar warmth and vitality. Gu Shiqing's heart mirrored the hollow space. She walked to the bedroom. At first glance, she spotted a letter on the nightstand, and a familiar protective talisman. The one she had personally prayed for Jiang Yi years ago, wishing him safety and peace. Jiang Yi had always treasured it, carrying it with him everywhere. Now, it lay there quietly, like an abandoned star that had lost all its radiance. The next moment, Gu Shiqing's trembling hands picked up the letter. On the envelope was Jiang Yi's familiar handwriting. Shiqing, by the time you read this letter, I will already be gone. Our 7-year relationship has finally reached its end. I'm tired, exhausted. All these years, you've treated me as your accessory, your ATM, your pet. You never truly loved me. You were merely accustomed to my presence, to my sacrifices. Now, I return all of this to you. From this moment onward, we owe each other nothing. Tears burst from Gu Shiqing's eyes. She clutched the letter with bone-white knuckles. The stationery crumpled into a ball beneath her grip. Jiang Yi, you bastard. With shaking hands, she picked up the lucky charm. Its icy touch pierced her heart like a blade. She clutched the protective talisman tightly, as if by doing so, she could grasp Jiang Yi, could keep him close. But everything was already too late. After a long moment, Gu Shiqing suddenly thought of something and frantically dialed my friend's number. She remembered Jiang Yi had a close friend named, as in Japan. Beep, beep. The phone rang endlessly before finally being answered. Jiang Yi, he might have gone to Japan. I need to know if he's with you. As hesitated before replying. He did come to me, though I'm surprised you're calling today. Gu Shiqing's heart leaped to her throat. What's wrong? A bitter laugh came through the receiver. Nothing much. Just, he told me yesterday he proposed to you, but you never showed up. As S words struck Gu Shiqing like a thunderbolt. Proposed? Jiang Yi had proposed to her. How could she have missed it? You, what are you saying? Proposed? Gu Shiqing's voice quivered uncontrollably. Yes, don't you know? He said he'd prepared the proposal for ages, gathered many friends, waited from morning till night. But you never came. Aja answered truthfully, his tone tinged with regret. Gu Shiqing murmured to herself, her mind completely blank. Then, how is he now? Gu Shiqing's voice turned hoarse. He's doing all right. Just drank quite a lot. Gu Shiqing fell silent. She could imagine Jiang Yi alone in a foreign land, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. How his heart must have ached. After a prolonged silence, Aja suddenly asked proactively, Miss Gu, do you truly love him? Gu Shiqing hesitated. Love? She didn't know. She'd merely grown accustomed to Jiang Yi's companionship, taken his devotion for granted, become habituated to his constant presence. From the other end of the line, Aja sighed. If you truly love him, let him go. Hearing this, Gu Shiqing's heart sank abruptly, as if gripped by an invisible hand, squeezing so tightly she could barely breathe. Was I too harsh before? Gu Shiqing's voice trembled with a hint of confusion. Yes. On the other end, Aja affirmed without hesitation. I understand. Gu Shiqing hung up the phone. She slumped weakly against the wall, sliding down slowly. She clutched the peace talisman tightly. The cold touch reminded her that Jiang Yi was gone. Truly gone. Woo. Gu Shiqing could no longer hold back and burst into loud sobs. Tears fell like broken strings of beads, rolling down one by one. They soaked her collar and dampened the peace talisman. Memories flooded her mind, scene after scene. Jiang Yi. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Gu Shiqing wept, saying she regretted it. She truly did. But everything was already too late. The next day, Gu Shiqing arrived at the company with swollen, red eyes. Director Gu, what happened to you? The HR manager jumped in fright upon seeing her appearance. Book me a flight to Japan, the sooner the better. Gu Shiqing's voice was hoarse yet resolute. The HR manager froze. Director Gu, you want to go to Japan? But didn't you say you would never go to Japan in your lifetime because of what happened to your parents? We even turned down many collaborations with Japan because of that. His voice grew softer. He clearly remembered Gu Shiqing once saying she would never set foot on Japanese soil in her lifetime. Because her parents had their accident in Japan, it was an eternal wound in her heart. Gu Shiqing fell silent. Of course she remembered, but she couldn't overcome the barrier in her heart. She couldn't face Jiang Yi's departure. After a long while, Gu Shiqing raised her head, her gaze resolute. This time, it's different. No matter the cost, I must go. The HR manager tried to say more, but Gu Shiqing cut him off. Book the flight tickets. The sooner the better. Yes. The HR manager sighed helplessly and left. Gu Shiqing watched his retreating figure, her eyes complex. She knew her decision would confuse many, even draw opposition. But she no longer cared. Right now, all she wanted was to see Jiang Yi. The next moment, Si Qinyo's voice abruptly interrupted her thoughts. He walked in, his face adorned with his usual gentle smile. Shiqing, what's wrong? Why are your eyes so red? Si Qinyo approached Gu Shiqing and asked with concern. Did that bastard Jiang Yi upset you again? Don't be afraid. With me here, I'll protect you. As he spoke, Si Qinyo reached out to embrace her. Don't touch me. Gu Shiqing abruptly pushed Si Qinyo away. Shiqing, you. Si Qinyo froze in place. He hadn't expected that Gu Shiqing would reject him so vehemently. Shiqing, don't be like this. I know you're hurting right now, But you still have me. Si Chinyu, undeterred, continued pleading. Jiang Yi already broke up with you. He doesn't deserve this grief from you. I'll stay with you forever. I'll love you more, cherish you more than he ever did. As he spoke, tears welled up in his eyes, looking utterly pitiful. Shiqing, just give me a chance. Let me take care of you, okay? Si Chinyu gazed affectionately at Gu Shiqing. Slap. But the next moment, a crisp slap sound echoed through the entire office. Gu Shiqing slapped Si Chinyu across the face with full force. You will never be qualified to compare with him. Gu Shiqing's voice was piercingly cold. Shiqing, Si Chinyu covered his cheek, staring at Gu Shiqing in disbelief. He never expected Gu Shiqing to hit him. Get out. Gu Shiqing pointed at the door and roared. Shiqing, I. Si Chinyu wanted to say more, but seeing the icy look in Gu Shiqing's eyes, he didn't dare continue. He cast a grievous glance at Gu Shiqing before turning to leave. Gu Shiqing watched his departing figure without pursuit. Ignoring everything, Gu Shiqing countered the HR manager. Hasn't the company been in chaos since Si Chinyu joined? After a moment's silence, the HR manager nodded. After a long pause, Gu Shiqing declared coldly. Starting today, dismiss Si Chinyu. Meanwhile, I was drinking with my friend at an izakaya. Jiang Yi, you bastard, should have come sooner. My friend raised his glass and clinked it against mine. Domestic life's too cutthroat. This place is way better. Come on, cheers. Cheers. I lifted my glass and drained it in one gulp. The spicy liquor flowed down my throat. The two of us drank like this, one cup after another. From daylight until dark. Until night fell and the city lights began to glow. I can't take it anymore. I need to go back. If I don't, my wife will scold me. My friend swayed as he stood up, saying, I'll walk you. I also rose to my feet. Though I drunk plenty myself, I was slightly more sober than my friend. No need. Where do you live? Don't go the wrong way. My friend waved his hand in refusal. It's fine. I'll walk you to the station. I insisted. Well, all right. Unable to refuse me, my friend reluctantly agreed. The two of us stumbled out of the izakaya, walking slowly along the street. Nighttime Tokyo remained lively. The streets buzzed with hurried pedestrians and endless traffic. Multicolored neon lights flickered with intoxicating brilliance. Jiang Yi, I'm here. You can head back. My friend pointed at the station ahead. Eyeing. Be careful on the road. I know you too. My friend patted my shoulder and turned to walk into the station. I watched my friend's retreating figure, took a deep breath, then turned around and started walking back. The apartment I rented wasn't far from here. Just a few steps, and I'd be there. However, I had only taken a few steps when I stopped, because I saw a familiar figure. Gu Shiqing. What is she doing here? I froze on the spot. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. No mistake, it was Gu Shiqing. She stood there, gazing quietly at him. Her eyes were red and swollen, as if she had been crying. Jiang Yi. Gu Shiqing's voice choked with emotion the moment she saw me. She began to walk toward me, step by step. Subconsciously, I tried to avoid her, but Gu Shiqing blocked my path. Jiang Yi, I'm sorry. Gu Shiqing looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes again. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have neglected you. Shouldn't have treated you like an accessory. I shouldn't have doubted you. Shouldn't have kept breaking promises. Shouldn't have neglected your feelings. Gu Shiqing spoke while taking a ring box from her bag. When opened, it revealed a diamond ring sparkling with brilliance. Jiang Yi, will you marry me? Gu Shiqing knelt on one knee, holding up the ring as she proposed. I froze in place. I never imagined Gu Shiqing would chase me here to propose. Was this still the same Gu Shiqing I knew? Wow. Be together. Be together. Say yes. Say yes. Passers-by nearby were drawn to this sudden romantic scene. They stopped one after another, gathering to watch. Many in the crowd began cheering excitedly. Most had been drinking, their emotions running high. Young man, say yes already. What are you waiting for with such a beautiful girlfriend? Exactly. This is so romantic. Amidst the cheering crowd and Gu Shiqing's expectant gaze, my heart remained calm. After a long silence, I spoke calmly. I refuse. Gu Shiqing froze in place. She probably never imagined I would reject her. She never expected that after chasing me thousands of miles, this would be the outcome. Why? Gu Shiqing's voice trembled. My tone remained detached, devoid of emotion. 7 years. Gu Shiqing, I gave you 7 years. Every time, you were late. Absent. On important days, you were never there. Now it's my turn to be willful. With those words, I stood up and walked away without looking back. I wouldn't turn back anymore. Stepping out of the apartment, I exhaled deeply, like shedding a 1,000-pound burden. In the following days, with friends' help, I joined a multinational corporation. Starting from the bottom, I took it one step at a time. I poured all my time and inner GY into work. Busyness is the best medicine for healing. It left no room for anything else, including Gu Shiqing. I heard that she came to my rented apartment every day to wait for me, rain or shine. Sometimes she waited all day long. Sometimes she even waited until late at night. She would call me, send messages. But I ignored them all, never responding. I completely shut her out of my world. And I knew she couldn't abandon the company her parents left her. That was her life's work, her pride. She couldn't give up everything for me. Just like how she'd repeatedly chosen the company and seeching you over me in the past. So eventually, she would leave. Sure enough, before long, she departed from Japan, while I remained in Tokyo, continuing my life, my work. Years later, I became the domestic regional agent for this company. I returned to China, back to this place where I'd lived for over 20 years. At a gathering, I met old friends and colleagues. They were all surprised by how I'd changed. They talked to me about Gu Shiqing, said she'd been living very poorly these past few years. The company was poorly managed and eventually went bankrupt. She fell from her high throne as a queen to the mortal world. Jiang Yi, you're not still thinking about her, are you? Someone jokingly asked me. Looking at your expression, you wouldn't still want to play the hero saving the beauty, would you? Get back together? Impossible. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. It's all in the past. I picked up the wine glass and drained it in one gulp. After 3 rounds of drinks, I stood up to bid farewell to everyone. Sorry, I can't handle the alcohol. I'll take my leave first. I stumbled out of the private room. Just as I reached the entrance, I collided with a waitress. The tray she was carrying overturned. Alcohol spilled all over the floor. Sorry, I'm so sorry. She frantically apologized. I waved my hand, indicating it was fine. Then I raised my head and saw her face. I recognized her with just one glance. Gu Shiqing. She looked thinner, more haggard, but her eyes remained just as bright. I knew she had recognized me too. Her lips twitched slightly, as if wanting to say something. But in the end, she said nothing, only lowered her head silently and began to clean up the mess on the floor. As I watched her, nothing but calm remained in my heart. I didn't speak, nor did I linger. I turned and walked away. I knew she must have been watching me, but I didn't look back. Because what's past is past. In life, one must always look ahead.